Hey, my name is Batsirai, and I made an app about identity, and then I forgot my own. Like, have you ever taught a class and failed the exam? So I made this app, Already Loved, AlreadyLovedKids.com. And hey, the product works. Parents can come and personalize a book for their child and help their child hear something I believe could change your child's life. You are not what you accomplish. You're not your worst mistake. You are not what somebody else called you. You are already loved. And I've spent months, probably far too long, much longer than I needed to, building this thing, writing it, designing it, improving it, changing words and moving buttons and thinking through every detail. And now I've reached the part where I have to tell people, here, I made this. And it's kind of like the terrifying part because, I can build in private. I can tweak and optimize in private. I can obsess over every detail in private. But the moment I share it, I can get rejected in public. And that's different. I don't know why. There's a million reasons. But so instead of going out into the marketplace and telling people about what I've made, I kept finding more and more things to fix. Another sentence that could be clearer, another screen that could be better. The website could be stronger. The video could be more professional. And now some of that is excellence and some of that is caring, but I have to admit that a lot of it was hiding. Improvement was camouflaged, became my camouflage really. And I wasn't improving. I wasn't just improving the product. I was using the product to avoid being seen, because as soon as I thought about getting in front of the camera, marketing this thing, showing my face, telling people about Already Loved, all these thoughts started coming up. You know what? I'm not eloquent enough. I'm not polished enough. I'm not cool looking enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not young enough. I don't have the right camera. I don't have the right lighting. I don't have the right studio. I don't have the perfect background. I don't know how to do this and how to market this properly. And I'm not equipped for this. And just a million little I am nots. It's funny how easy those things just rhyme off there. It's so easy to make a list of the things we're not good at. I'm so aware of that. Anyways, the strange thing is that this entire project is about identity. And I created something to help children know who they are while quietly believing that I wasn't enough to tell anyone about it. And that contradiction really hit me this week. And I don't think it makes me a hypocrite, but definitely human. And sometimes, we build the very thing that we need. And sometimes the message that God puts in our hands for others is also the message that He's trying to work into our hearts. Already Loved is not simply something I'm supposed to teach. Apparently, it's something I still need to believe and receive. We think about Moses and man, it's so easy to judge these guys, but I started thinking about Moses and God meets Moses at the burning bush and calls him to lead Israel out of Egypt. Moses' first response is essentially, well, who am I? And then it's, well, what if they don't believe me? And I'm not a good speaker. And then could you please help? Please find somebody else. Moses had this whole list, a million reasons why he was not the man for the job. And honestly, I kind of get it now. God says, go. And Moses says, but look at me. And God says, I've heard my people. Moses says, but I can't speak. And God says, I'll be with you. And Moses keeps referencing Moses while God keeps referencing God. And when Moses asks God for his name, what should I call him? What should I call you when I go before Israel? God says, tell them I am that I am. That is such a profound name. God doesn't define himself by comparison to others. He doesn't say, I'm stronger than this God, or I'm more impressive than that king. He doesn't even reference a resume, as big as it is. He does not appeal to another authority. God's identity is entirely self-defined. God is the reference point. He is the anchor beneath the reality. He is not becoming. He is not auditioning. He's not proving. He simply is. And God says, I am because I am. My name is I am that I am. That's who God says he is. But who am I? My name, therefore, should be I am because he. But the problem is I keep using myself as the reference point. I am a good singer. I am a good app builder. I am a good marketer, I think. Am I impressive enough? Am I good looking enough? Do I have the right personality? Will people like me? Will they listen? Will this work? But Moses' story seems to suggest that the most important question is not, am I enough? But it's, who is with me? Because God never really tried to convince Moses that Moses was amazing. He didn't say, hey, Moses, you're actually really articulate, more than you realize. He didn't say, you have better leadership potential than you think. He didn't say, you just need to believe in yourself, Moses. No, God's answer was, I will be with you. And that changes the entire discussion, the entire equation. Because when I say I'm not enough, I may actually be telling the truth if I mean by myself, but I was never asked to do this by myself. And I'm realizing this now, even as I talk to you, that my inadequacy is only the end of the story when I'm the only character in it, but I'm not. That doesn't mean skills don't matter. That doesn't mean that preparation doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't learn how to speak and do this video thing more clearly, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But skill cannot become the foundation of my identity, because no matter how good I become, fear can always move the finish line. And when I have a better camera, then I'll notice that my lighting's off. And when I fix the lighting, then I'll notice my voice. And when I improve my voice, then my audience size now. Oh my gosh, my audience is growing. Now I'll worry about how to keep them and how to keep you and me more engaging and more entertaining for you. And I will never, ever be at rest or be allowed to rest, because performance is such a moving target. And yet belovedness is such a posture of rest. Anyways, if you've heard me talk before, maybe you've heard the analogy of the apple seed. And I keep coming back to this image of an apple seed. An apple seed is defined not by what it produces, not by its output, but by its origin, right? An apple seed is still an apple seed, even if it's never produced any apples. We get our identity not from what we produce, not from our output, but from our origin. Of course, fruit matters, but fruit only reveals identity. It doesn't create it. And our origin comes before output. And yet maybe you keep reversing that. I look at my output and then work backwards to decide who I am. How many people watched this video? How many people downloaded the app? How many people commented? Did the post perform well? Was I articulate? Did I appear credible? Did anybody even respond? And then I turn those results into declarations. Well, you see, nobody watched, and therefore I must not be compelling. The video felt awkward, and therefore I'm not a good communicator. The product did not spread like wildfire, and therefore it sucks, and therefore I suck. Somebody rejected it, and therefore I'm not wanted. But you see what happened there? I take an event and I turn it into an identity. Now, we can do that both ways, even for good things. You succeed at something and you think that's what makes you you. But in my case, maybe in yours, I take a disappointing result and I turn it into a name. But my output was never qualified to identify me, to name me. Fruit can tell me what needs cultivation, what needs improvement, but it can't tell me who I am. And that's a very, very important distinction. A bad video can tell me that I need more practice, let's say, or tell me that I could improve at this and that, but it can't tell me that I'm a bad communicator. A failed launch, a failed product can teach me that my message was unclear. It can declare, but it can't declare. It cannot declare that I'm a failure. A person can reject what I made. They do not gain the authority to redefine the person that God made. This brings me back to one of the most important questions in life, but exemplified in the Bible. See, Adam and Eve were hiding from God, and God asks Adam, where are you? And then Adam says, hey, we're here, but we're hiding because we're ashamed. And God says, who told you that? Who told you you were naked? Where did this new story come from? And who gave you this definition? I think that's a question that we need to ask much more often. When I say I'm not good enough, God says, who told you that? I'm not attractive enough. Who told you that? Well, I'm not a leader. Who told you that? I'm too old. I'm too late. I've made too many mistakes. Nobody wants to have or buy what I have to offer. Who told you that? I need to do something to be more lovable. Who told you you weren't already? Now, some stories feel true because we've repeated them in our heads and in our hearts for years. But familiar is not the same as true, and a lie can become emotionally believable through repetition. It can feel like humility. It can feel like self-awareness. It can feel like I'm simply being realistic, but there's nothing humble about agreeing with a definition that God didn't give you. See, false humility is still a false identity. And that one is challenging because I can make my fear sound really mature and smart. Like, I'm not a marketing person. I'm more of a behind the scenes, in the wings kind of person. I'm not one of those charismatic internet people. Maybe those sentences are just fear wearing some clothes. Maybe I've taken discomfort and turned it into identity. Maybe I'm not good at this yet quietly becomes I am not this. And those are not the same sentence. See, when Jesus was baptized, the Father said, "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." And what's striking there is the timing. This declaration comes before Jesus' ministry, public ministry, before the miracles, before the crowds, before the sermons, before the cross, before the visible output. The Father establishes identity before activity. Belovedness, being beloved before achievement, being a son before ever serving, relationship before results. God does not wait for fruit before naming the seed. Yeah. Now, in Christ, that belovedness becomes the place from which we live. It's not the prize that we earn. It's after we perform really well. I used to think identity was like some sort of conclusion, if you do enough, if you become enough, if you prove enough, if you earn enough, then perhaps you can say, I am this. I am excellent at that. But the gospel gives us an identity as a starting block. It's not the end of the race. It's not when we win the gold medal that we become excellent. No, with the gospel, it's at the beginning. You are loved. Now go run the race of love. You do belong. Now go live out in the world as if you have a home. You are the righteousness of Christ. Now go learn to live in that righteousness that you've received. You're not working your way towards a name or an identity. You are learning to live from the name that you have been given already. Identity is not the reward at the end of obedience. Identity is the ground beneath obedience. I can obey because I know who I am. I am because he is. So when I say I'm not enough, God doesn't necessarily respond by saying, "Oh, yes, you are. You're amazing." Maybe his answer is deeper than that. Maybe he says, "I am." When I say I'm not enough, he says, "I am," meaning he is. He says, "I am with you." I am your source. I am your life. I am your wisdom. I am your righteousness. I am your courage. I am your father. I am love. And because he is, I no longer have to build my life on the unstable foundation of my own performance. I am loved because God is love, because Jesus is loved by the Father. I am righteous because I have Christ's righteousness. It's been imputed. I've been included in Christ. I am his because he called me his own. I am not self-created. I am not self-sustaining. I am not self-defined. I am because he is. And that's not positive thinking. It's a relational identity. Like we define ourselves by our origin and we let our origin determine who we are. It's not pretending that I don't have any weaknesses. It's not denying that I have things that I need to grow in or denying it is denying that growth has the right to define and decide whether I'm worthy of love. The fact that I need to get better at recording video doesn't mean that I'm not loved. It's weird. When you say it out loud, it seems kind of foolish and obvious, but emotionally it feels very true. Or at least difficult to believe, sorry. So I think this is where I am right now. Already Loved is built, it exists, and I could probably spend another year tweaking and improving. There'll always be more to fix. There will always be something I could make better, but at some point, excellence stops being love and it starts becoming fear. At some point, stewardship means releasing what's in your hands. Like, hey, Here, I made this. I don't need a perfect studio to tell people that they're loved. I don't need to look like anybody else. I don't need to eliminate every awkward pause. I don't need to become the world's greatest marketer. I just need enough courage to offer you what I've made and to walk into the marketplace and say, hey, here, I made this. And that sentence feels so vulnerable because this thing that I've made, already loved, it matters to me. It came out of my story. It came out of my family. It came out of our fear that our son one day might wonder if he was a mistake. It came out of our desire to give children something deeper than just compliments and affirmations. Not just you're special or not just you're amazing, but a foundation. You came from love. You were wanted in the heart of God. Your life is not an accident. Your origin is deeper than your output. Your origin is deeper than your circumstances. You know, we can't believe I'm saying this in public. I'm trying to be vulnerable, but we got pregnant in Bible college. We were young and not married. And there was so much shame and confusion. And you could just imagine all the emotions just being, not only was I in Bible college, I was a leader in that Bible college. But despite all that struggle, deeper than that was this concern, fear, this, oh, what are we going to tell Jaden? What are we going to tell our son? Will he ever wonder if he was a mistake? Will he ever look back and go, oh my gosh, was I wanted or was I a mistake? And what are we going to tell him? What could you possibly tell him to make him think different about that, to help him know that he is loved? And kind of like God teaches us, like we can't reference ourselves. We couldn't reference ourselves. We had to say, you know what? You are loved not because of what we've done or our good behavior or bad behavior. You are loved because he is love, and he loves you because that's who he is. And you are already loved because God is love. And that's a really, really important thing. So that's why we built it. And perhaps I've been treating marketing as though it's asking people to admire me or, getting people to agree with me. But perhaps marketing can be simpler than that. Maybe it's not look at me. Maybe it's look at what might help somebody that you love. Right? That changes things. I'm not trying to manufacture attention. I'm trying to make this offer a little bit more visible, this product more visible to you because I believe it could help you. Marketing is not always self-promotion. Sometimes it's refusing to hide something that could help somebody. And I want to help people. So I'm recording this as an act of practice, really. Hopefully one day I'll be much better at this. Not practicing becoming impressive, but practicing being visible. Just stepping out, coming out of hiding. Practice telling the truth before I'm fully even qualified to say it. I'm not here because we've done everything perfectly. I'm doing it because he is perfect. I'm not doing things because we've done everything right or we know everything. I'm here because he knows everything. And I'm trying to practice believing the message that I've created for other people. I don't know what you're hiding behind, and maybe it's more research, more preparation, more courses, more editing, more planning. Maybe you keep telling yourself you're being responsible, measuring twice, cutting once. Perhaps you are, and I get it. Something to that. But maybe our improvements and our efforts there have become camouflage. Maybe excellence has become an excuse. And have you turned I'm still learning into I'm not called to do this? Have you been using your output to determine your identity? Again, your output matters, what you make, your fruit, it matters. God has created that through you, and your growth matters, and your output, your fruit does matter. But none of those things are qualified to identify you, to name you. Your origin comes before your output, and you come from the bosom of the Father. So when the million little I am nots begin speaking, being loud in your ear, remember the one who says, but I am. And let your I am nots be replaced with his I ams. I am because he is. So this is me stepping out from behind my product. No perfect studio, no claim that I've mastered any of this. Just a man who built something he believes can help you, can help families. Trying to find the courage to say, hey, here, I made this. Go check it out. alreadylovedkids.com. And if you don't have a kid yourself, maybe you know somebody who does. Thank you for listening. And I hope there'll be more of this.